The scar snaked down Roy Sullivan's right arm like a river of burned skin, a permanent reminder of his lifelong battle. It was just one of the marks. His body was a living map of his war against nature, a territory etched with burns and the phantom memory of voltages that should have killed him 7 times over. On the morning of June 25, 1977, 65-year-old Roy parked his green pickup truck at the ranger station in Shenandoah National Park, Virginia. He had seen things most people would never see in 10 lifetimes. He'd battled forest fires, rescued lost hikers, and stared down hungry bears. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the strange, electric fate that had haunted him since 1942. Morning, Roy greeted Pat Wilkins, his younger colleague, as he scanned the sky. Dark clouds were gathering over the Blue Ridge Mountains. Looks like a storm's rolling in. You staying put or heading out on patrol? Roy looked up, his expression a mix of resignation and defiance. If I stayed home every time the sky darkened, Pat, I'd never have worked a day in my life. He unconsciously touched the side of his head, where a few strands of hair were permanently missing, burned off decades ago. Anyway, he added, there's no point in running. It seems to find me wherever I am. Pat had heard the stories. Everyone in the Forest Service knew the legend of Roy Sullivan. Some believed it. Others thought he was exaggerating, but the scars were too real, too documented, and witnessed by too many people to be a lie. The first time it happened was in April 1942. A young Roy, just 30 years old, was working in a fire observation tower, a 50-foot old metal structure perched atop a remote mountain. It was the kind of place where you could go for days without seeing another soul. Just you, the birds, and the clouds dancing between the peaks. That afternoon, a storm arrived without warning. Inside the tower, Roy felt the air become thick, electric. The hairs on his arms stood on end. A low hum began to vibrate through the metal structure. He knew what it meant. I have to get out of here, he muttered, bolting for the door. But he wasn't fast enough. A blinding white light and a boom that echoed for miles. Lightning struck the tower. The current surged through the metal frame, seeking the fastest path to the ground, and it found Roy Sullivan. The shock ripped through his body with 50,000 degrees of pure fury. His nervous system was bombarded with a current 1,000 times stronger than a household outlet. Every muscle contracted violently. His heart stopped for a terrifying instant and then, miraculously, started beating again. Roy woke up on the floor, disoriented, with the taste of metal in his mouth and a high-pitched ringing in his ears. Smoke curled up from his clothes. A D-burn had charred a strip of his right leg, destroying his sock and part of his boot. The pain was excruciating, but he was alive. Just bad luck, the doctors told him. 1 in a million. You were lucky to survive. But Roy didn't feel lucky. As he recovered, a strange feeling consumed him, an irrational certainty that this wasn't the last time. It was as if the universe had marked his name on some kind of special list. 27 years passed. Then, in July of 1969, it happened again. Roy was driving his truck down a mountain road when another storm rolled in. This time, he was safe, inside the vehicle door. So he thought. Lightning pierced the metal roof like it was paper, striking Roy squarely in the head. The voltage traveled through his body and out the soles of his boots, knocking him unconscious at the wheel. The truck veered off the road and crashed into a tree. When he came to, Roy had lost his eyebrows and eyelashes. His clothes were singed. But once again, he was alive. Doctors were perplexed. The odds of being struck by lightning twice were astronomical, about 1 in 9 million. Maybe you should consider a new line of work, one doctor suggested. But Roy loved the forests. He loved the mountains. He refused to let fear drive him from the only place he felt whole. The third strike came just a year later. In July 1970, Roy was at his observation post when he saw the storm approaching. This time, he tried to prepare. He stayed away from metal objects. He stood in an open area. He did everything right. It didn't matter. The lightning found him anyway, striking his left shoulder and passing through his body until it exited through his right foot. The current burned through his shirt, leaving a new collection of scars. Roy was hospitalized again, this time with more severe burns. Local newspapers started publishing stories about him. They nicknamed him the human lightning rod. Scientists were intrigued. Statistically, what was happening to Roy Sullivan defied all known probability. Dr. James Peterson, a meteorologist, visited him in the hospital. "Mr. Sullivan," he said, examining the scars, "you understand that the chances of this happening are almost impossible, right? 3 times. That ... Well, that shouldn't happen." Roy managed a tired smile. "Tell that to the lightning, Doctor. It seems to disagree." But the universe wasn't done with him. In April 1972, the 4th strike, Roy was working inside the park when a sudden storm caught him off guard. He ran to his truck, thinking he'd be safe. He was wrong. The bolt struck the truck again, but this time it set the interior ablaze. Roy had to fight his way out as flames consumed the dashboard. His hair caught fire. He dropped and rolled on the ground to extinguish the flames, adding another layer of scars to his scalp. At this point, Roy started carrying a bucket of water in his truck, not for fires, but to douse himself in case he was hit again. His co-workers began to avoid him during thunderstorms. It wasn't out of malice, but pure, superstitious fear. "Sorry, Roy," they'd say, "but if lightning's chasing you, I don't want to be around for the next one." He couldn't blame them. The 5th attack happened in August 1973. Roy was fishing in a small lake in the park when the sky darkened. He should have left, but the fish were biting. Just a few more minutes, he thought. Those minutes almost cost him his life. The lightning pierced his hat, burned his hair again, and shot out through his feet, throwing him into the water. If not for a nearby fisherman who dragged him to shore, Roy would have drowned 5 times. The story went national. Scientific journals published articles about him. Roy Sullivan had become a living statistical anomaly, a phenomenon that defied explanation. "You are the unluckiest man in the world," a reporter told him during an interview. Roy just shook his head. "I'd be unlucky if I was dead. Whatever's happening to me, I'm still here." That has to mean something. As he sat in his truck on that stormy morning in 1977, Roy knew the story wasn't over. He looked at the gathering storm, not with fear, but with a weary acceptance. His deep blue eyes, tired from a lifetime of vigilance, held a strange kind of strength. He had been challenged by one of nature's most powerful forces, not once, but 7 times, and had lived to tell the tale. His life was a testament to resilience, a story written in scars, a defiant stand against impossible odds. Have you ever felt like you have the worst luck in the world? Maybe you missed the bus, spilled coffee on your shirt, and got caught in the rain, all in the same day. Well, let me tell you a story about a man whose bad luck makes all of that look like winning the lottery. This is the unbelievable story of Roy Sullivan, the man who was struck by lightning not once, not twice, but 7 times, and survived. Our story begins in Shenandoah National Park. In June 1976, a park ranger named Roy Sullivan was on a routine inspection. Suddenly, he felt that familiar, chilling sensation to air growing heavy, electrically charged, the hairs on his neck standing on end. He looked up. Dark, ominous clouds were swallowing the afternoon sun. "Not again," he muttered, rushing towards the nearest shelter. But this time was different. The bolt didn't strike from above. It shot out sideways, through the trees, as if it had a personal vendetta. It slammed into his chest with brutal force, throwing him against a rock and twisting his ankle violently. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. When Nikamete rain was pouring down, and he was alone, his ankles swollen and throbbing. He managed to crawl, then limp, for 2 miles to the nearest ranger station. The burns on his chest formed a strange, branching pattern Lichtenberg figures, temporary fractal tattoos left by lightning. At the hospital, Dr. Richard Matthews, who had treated Roy twice before for lightning strikes, just shook his head in disbelief. 6 times, Roy. 6. The odds of this happening are 1 in 15 billion. You're statistically rarer than winning the lottery 3 times in a row. Roy stared at his scarred hands, the physical evidence of his impossible encounters. He didn't feel rare. "Doctor," he said, his voice low and tired, "I don't feel rare. I feel cursed." This was the turning point. Roy's body, though scarred, had always recovered. But his mind was starting to break under the immense psychological weight. He began avoiding people during thunderstorms, not because he was afraid for himself, but because he was terrified the lightning would hit someone else just by being near him. "I'm a human lightning rod," he told his wife of 40 years. "Patricia, what if I'm near someone when the next one comes? What if I hurt someone else?" Patricia watched the love of her life become consumed by a paranoia that was frighteningly not irrational. "Roy, you can't live in fear of the heavens," she pleaded. "It's destroying you." But he couldn't stop. He checked weather forecasts obsessively. He mapped out escape routes and shelters everywhere he went. His co-workers, who once viewed him with a mix of awe and curiosity, now saw a man haunted. "He used to be the bravest guard we knew," his colleague Pat Wilkins later said. But after the sixth strike, he had this distant look in his eye, like he was always waiting for the next one. And the next one came. On June 25th, 1977, exactly 1 year and 1 day after the sixth strike, Roy was fishing. He wasn't working. He was just trying to have a normal, quiet Saturday. The sky was partly cloudy, but the forecast had called for only a slight chance of isolated storms. It was supposed to be a perfect day. Around 3 p.m., he felt it, that unmistakable pressure, the shift in the air that he knew better than his own breath. And then, without warning, a seventh bolt of lightning struck. A fisherman 50 yards away, Tom Bradley, saw the whole thing. The sky wasn't even that dark, he told investigators. Then all of a sudden, this bolt of lightning, and I swear it seemed like it came out of nowhere, hit Roy directly. It was like it was targeted. The lightning hit Roy in the head, traveled through his body, and exited his feet. The force was so great it left a dent in the earth. His hat burst into flames. His clothes started to smoke. Tom ran to him, screaming for help. Roy was conscious, but disoriented. "7," he murmured. That was the seventh. Then, in a moment that shocked everyone, he began to laugh a hysterical, broken sound. 7 times. "What have I done to deserve this?" When Roy arrived at the hospital, the staff were in stunned silence. "7th time," a nurse whispered. "How is this possible?" Dr. Matthews examined the new burns, which were even more extensive this time. "Frankly," he said, "I don't know. This defies all medical and statistical logic. Roy Sullivan shouldn't be alive." News of the Lightning Man went global. National Geographic wanted to interview him. Scientists wanted to study his body for some anomaly, but Roy refused. "I'm not a circus phenomenon," he told Patricia. "I just want peace." Guinness World Records officially recognized him as the person struck by lightning the most times in recorded history, a record no one would ever want. But the recognition brought no joy. Roy retired from the Forest Service, unable to bear working outdoors anymore. "The mountains were my life," he confessed. "But now, every time I look up at the sky, I feel nothing but fear." His paranoia deepened. He installed multiple lightning rods around his house. He'd hide in the basement during storms, his curtains drawn, listening to weather reports on a portable radio. Patricia, his rock, did her best to support him, but she was aging and had her own health issues. In 1983, after a long life together, she passed away from natural causes. Her death was the final blow. Without her, Roy was completely isolated. His friend, Pat Wilkins, would visit, trying to pull him out of his shell. "You've survived 7 lightning strikes, Roy," Pat would say. "You're the toughest man I know. Don't let this get the best of you now." But Roy was tired. He was tired of being a statistical anomaly, tired of the constant fear, tired of waking up every morning wondering if today was the day the 8th bolt would find him. On the morning of September 28th, 1983, Roy Sullivan, at 71 years old, took his own life. His friend, Pat, wept when he heard the news. "He survived the impossible," he said, "but he couldn't survive the weight of it." The odds of being struck by lightning 7 times are estimated to be 1 in 4 quadrillion. Scientists still study his case, theorizing about high-altitude work environments or unique biological factors. But maybe the real lesson here isn't about science or statistics. It's about the crushing psychological toll of surviving the impossible again and again. It's a story about how the human mind can break, even when the body endures. In Shenandoah National Park, a small plaque honors Roy. It doesn't mention lightning. It simply reads, Roy Sullivan Ranger, 1912 to 1983. He loved these mountains, and perhaps that's how he'd want to be remembered. Not as the lightning man, but as a man who loved nature, even when nature seemed determined to destroy him. Roy Sullivan's story is a powerful testament to the incredible resilience of the human body, but also the profound fragility of the human spirit. If you or someone you know is struggling, please remember that it's okay to ask for help. There are resources available, and you don't have to carry your burdens alone. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please like this video and subscribe for more amazing stories from history. We'll see you in the next one.